So today we're joined by Red Sox prospect Dalton Rogers. Dalton was drafted in the third round of the 2022 draft out of Southern Mississippi, and in 2025 he finished the season pitching with the Portland Sea Dogs. Um, if I remember correctly, wasn't that 22 team in Mississippi? You guys had like five pitchers drafted in that year.
Yeah, it was. It was a really, really talented pitching staff. I think we had a couple of guys. I think even the next year. I mean, it was a really talented staff.
Yeah, because was it? I remember reading a while back. I think it was something like a record for the year. Well, for your school for the year for how many pitchers taken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. It was pretty cool to be a part of that.
Yeah. And, obviously during college you were pitching 2020, the COVID year. How exactly did that play out for you? Cuz I mean, you guys probably only played a few games and then they probably just called everything like every other sport.
Yeah, I think so. I was actually at Southeastern Louisiana University my freshman year, and I was working as like a midweek starter and working a little bit and like out of the pen on the weekends, and we used that as like a bullpen between the start days
Okay.
if I started on the midweeks. So it was an interesting role that I did, but I had my first start against ULL, which I think they were ranked at the time. So it was like a big deal for me, being a freshman and starting against a nationally ranked team. I think they had like a pretty big prospect on their team that ended up getting drafted pretty high that in that draft that year. But it was cool. And then COVID hit. It was like a shock, but it kind of worked out for me just because I was actually a two-way when I went there. So I was going there to hit and pitch, and the pitching like that's kind of what the coaches was telling me when I was recruited was, hey, like you're gonna pitch and hit, but like whatever kind of looks like you're gonna trend to do in the future, that's what we'll stick with, and that's kind of what pitching ended up becoming for me, and ended up after the COVID, I was like, all right, this is the year that I want. Like going in basically my sophomore year after the COVID, I was like, I want to be a pitcher only, and so I wanted to step away from Division 1 and go JUCO to kind of like really reinvent the way of doing everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, not hitting anymore and actually focusing fully on pitching. So it was I went the JUCO route and took that. I guess that would have been 2021 season. I just strictly pitched and had a pretty good. We had a pitching coach that came from. He played for the Braves a long time ago, but he was a local high school head coach that ended up coming to take the pitching coach job, and he was a lefty as well. So it was awesome to work with him and really taught me how to pitch. Like instead of in high school, I was just a guy that had a pretty good fastball, and I would just kind of throw pitches and just never really knew the mindset of mentality of a pitcher until that year. So like that really helped me reinvent just like everything about it, and so it ultimately got me prepared to be back in the Division 1 level, which got me to Southern Miss and ended up being a part of a really good staff, and it was got me to getting drafted in the third round and everything.
So, did you find it difficult at all to transition from the mindset of like a two-way player to just strictly pitching?
I mean, honestly, I feel like it made it easier because
Okay.
I my freshman year I was kind of getting because like you have to learn hitter signs, pitcher signs, and it's just so you have meetings, you have practices, and you're practicing extra because you have bullpens and you have to hit. So it was a lot harder, honestly, being a two-way than being just a pitcher only. And
Yep.
of course, hitters gives us pitchers crap all the time about how our days are a lot easier. So I will say it's nicer to have easier days just being a pitcher.
And then obviously, after the 21 season, you went down and you played at Cape Cod for what was it 21 and partially 22 for Katuitt? Is it?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It was a really good experience.
So with the Cape League, how does that work with joining a team? Do you like send game tape to them and hope you get a call back, or do they? Do they reach out to you?
So there's different ways. I think each person kind of has a different story of how they got it. But for me, I I think about 2 weeks to the end of my JUCO season, my agent now reached out to me and was asking if I'd be interested to get work with him, be my advisor at the time, and ended up going with him. And that was his suggestion was like, hey, look, like I really think this would be a great opportunity for you to go pitch and everything up there. And he knew I think it was maybe the GM of some, I think, but
Mhm.
it's a younger guy. He actually, I think, works with Baseball America now, I think. But he had connections with him, I guess, having previous players go up there to the Cape. So he reached out to him. He's like, "Hey, I got a left-handed pitcher. Would be interested to go up there." And he ended up saying, "Yeah, of course, we'll take him." And it ended up, they told me, "Hey, be up here." I think it was like July, maybe July 12th or something. And I was up there and really got to, meet new people and from, all over. That was kind of really getting out of my comfort zone of really like stepping away from Mississippi. Obviously, I went down to Louisiana, but going all the way up to the Northeast, it's different. And then obviously you're getting to play with guys from California, Washington, Florida. So it was really cool. It was a really good time, and I really enjoyed it.
All right. So, I mean, obviously, a lot of people they use the Cape League, like you said, for an opportunity, get to play against better competition, and then obviously you didn't finish the whole Cape League season in 22 because you got drafted by the Red Sox. Was
Right.
there so with that when you got drafted? Because then you did pitch a few games with the Red Sox that year. Did you notice a big transition from college baseball to minor league baseball at all?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you going from metal bats to wood bats, that's what kind of I feel like sticks out when you kind of notice something. I feel like you can't get those cheap hits off, the end of bats or like on the handles anymore like you do in metal bats with, depend with wood bats just because obviously it's wood. So like I
Yeah.
feel like you have more room for error when it comes to, throwing over the plate. And that's kind of something I've learned more and more as I've been in professional baseball is like, you hear all these guys now in high school, I mean, in college, it feels like they're always, hitting 500
Yeah.
foot bombs. You had Jack Caglione, which I think was the year after me when he hit the, home run record. And it's just like, it's insane, which obviously he's a big leaguer now, but it's just like, it's crazy how it is a difference in a sense of room for error, I feel like, with having
Mhm.
metal bats and wood bats.
All right. And along with that, was there like anything that surprised you in a sense, like when you first became a minor leaguer, like this is how things are now instead of how with college, where during the day you'd have classes, but now none of that, it was all strictly baseball.
Yeah, I mean that was like it always is still, every day I like remind myself like this is a job. Like it's awesome that this is my job, that I don't have to worry about school. I don't have to worry about, it's and like especially in season with everything or even like right now, like the all season, like I'm working, but I'm not working. It's fun and it's such a blessing having that opportunity. But I would think like with the compared to college to the pro is like you have such like a your own schedule. Like you kind of and especially the higher levels you get. I mean, it's very individual of what you're doing with people. Like I have something today, but another guy doesn't. And in
Yeah.
college it feels like everybody is on pretty similar schedule. You have team D, you have all that. Everybody's throwing at the same time. It's very individualized when it comes to professional baseball, and it's pretty cool. Like you don't get ever tired of it. That's what I enjoy. Is it's always always have something, and it's not everybody's doing the same thing.
Hmm. And like with that, with how everyone's doing different stuff, obviously during the season and in the off season, pitchers especially, they'll tinker with their pitch repertoire. Is like the thinking behind it more to find like a pitch shape for like the off speed pitches that work well with the fastball?
Yeah, I mean the Red Sox have done a really good job in the last couple of years bringing in guys that have been, leaning towards the new era of baseball, which is the analytics part of it and involving
Hmm.
TrackMan. And they kind of they've done even with me that I've learned is like when I my first full season, I ended up getting in Greenville. My first start when I got called up from Salem was I threw a changeup and after the game or like the next day we went over the scouting or not the after report and it
Hmm.
shows we have movement plots and it shows your pitches and they were like the pitching coach there Bob Kipper was like like you're showing some really good changeups, and this is like a changeup I never really threw. Like I don't really throw like in college when I was at Southern Miss, I was like 80% fastball, so I was really
Okay.
not a all speed guy, and so started throwing more off speed. Obviously, being in the pro ball, because you can't throw fastballs every
Mhm.
time, and uh, was showing some changeups that were really good, and that was kind of they sat me down and I talked with one of the video guys and we're like, look, like you have a very similar arm uh release height and extension. We think like this pitch, like really developing a changeup would be really good in this situation. So for me, I had like levels of development when it came to pitches. So like my first full season, it was focused on the changeup. So I learned the changeup. The second full season, we worked on a slider the entire season to help complement a changeup that goes arm side, fastball carries, and then a slider going glove side. So that's
Mhm.
three quadrants that I covered.
Yeah.
And I've always had a curveball, but like my third full season, which was this past season, we obviously always still wanted to work on those other three pitches to keep making them better. But we ended up focusing a little bit more on the curveball and got that even better. So it's each year it's been a development of pitches for me, and it's just been growing ever since. And I feel like that's what's uh, allowing me to have the success that I had this past season, being able to bring everything in the last 3, 4 years together.
Yeah, I was gonna say, obviously, the beginning of this season with Greenville, you got off to a tremendous start, and then continued it right into Portland. I think by the end of the year, between the two levels, you were up to somewhere around 120 strikeouts or so. I know your strikeouts per nine, it was over 10. So that just shows how much, like you were saying with the pitches and the different quadrants really worked out for you.
Yeah.
But so obviously, in Greenville, you made five appearances this year. One of them was a start, and then you came up to Portland after that, and um, pretty much along that lines, they had you a little bit out of the bullpen, but mostly out of the rotation. When you're warming up before a game, uh, would you have like a different mindset between like, okay, I'm starting, I'm gonna go as long as I can in that sense to give my team the best chance to win, whereas a reliever, okay, my job today is get an inning, get two innings, or possibly, a bulk roll. Does that play a role at all when you're preparing for a game?
So with what the kind of the Red Sox have became started doing, I think kind of when my first full season, we started incorporating a piggyback, and that was pretty
Mm-hmm.
much allowing guys to have set days. So instead of having, a 5-man rotation,
Mm-hmm.
you could have an eight, you could have a nine, because you could just basically have two starters throwing a game together. And
Okay.
so that allows guys to have more days to develop and have set days of like, hey, like you're gonna for sure throw on Tuesday, you're gonna for sure have a bullpen on Friday, and you're gonna for sure throw again, later in that, time frame. And so what they did is they want us to take advantage of those bullpen days because as a bullpen guy, you don't really get those legitimate bullpen days between outings.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys that they feel that I guess can go long, because I was originally a bullpen guy out of Southern Miss,
Yeah.
and that converted me back into a starter role my first season, and I've been with it. And so like when I was in Greenville this to start the year, I had only one start and four coming out of the pen, but I was still coming out. I was told like how we do it is we have pitch counts,
Mm-hmm.
and so the pitch counts for me were it always kind of built up and throughout the season, but to start the year, I think we were at like a 60 pitch count or 65. And so Peyton Tolley would start, and I would come in behind him knowing, all right, he has about 60, 65 pitches. So we'd kind of have communications of like, all right, he's at his 50th pitch. Dalton, you're going to get ready in this next couple of innings. And so I would pretty much treat it like if I was starting. I would go in, I would just warm up, do my normal thing, and treat like the inning that his last inning was my bullpen pregame technically.
Okay.
And so I would do that, and then they'd call my name to go out there, and that was my mindset of like, all right, I mean, I have this amount of pitches. Let's see how many innings I can get it in inside that pitch count. And obviously, the more the merrier. But so like for me, I was been treated from the Red Sox standpoint. I've been being treated as a starter, and that's kind of how I portrayed it. I never really try to like, get hot before the game and then go into the bullpen, sit, and then get hot again. I never threw until I was originally supposed to go in later in those games. And so I've always just had it was always treated as a starting pitcher role for me, even if I was coming in the fifth or sixth inning.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't realize that was the whole plan behind the piggybacking. But thinking back, especially in Portland, where yourself, Tolley, Hayden Mullins, Yordani, all these guys are up there, it makes sense where you want to get everyone their innings.
Right.
And so, just two questions left, but like we kind of touched on this at the beginning, but like when the minor league season ends, how does like the start of your off season go? Or do you normally like take some time off to recover, or like a week after the last game, is it back in the gym and continuing your usual day to day routine?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of in the middle. Like I take for sure the first week, a full week of being home and like really enjoying being around the family and letting the body fully recover. But which I had a little extended this year just because I had my wisdom teeth taken
Yeah.
out. So I think I had a week and then I had my wisdom. So I had about 3 weeks of really just recovering and letting body just, get back to feeling good again. And so as soon as that third week hit, I really got, I'm back into what I'm doing now, and it's playing catch 4 times a week and hitting the weight room as hard as I can to get the body, ready to go for another full season.
All right. And then just kind of the last question, and I hope, I'm not putting you on the spot, but growing up, were there any like Major League Baseball players you looked towards like as inspiration in a sense, or just your favorite player watching?
Yeah, I when I was like really young, because I was a two-way, I actually was as a left-hander. I actually played infield growing up, and I was a big Dustin Pedroia fan growing up, just because he was, always, not the biggest guy on the field, but played like he was the biggest. And so
Mhm.
I'm not the biggest guy either now, and so it's just having that mentality of just going out there and just doesn't matter how big you are, you can go out there and perform just as good as anyone else. And from a pitcher standpoint, I was a big fan of David Price, with when he was with the Rays and then when he was with the Red Sox, because I've always been a Red Sox fan growing up for as long as I can remember. And I'd say those two were, really that I was a big fan of. And then kind of when I got later into I would say college, I started becoming a big Blake Snell fan, really liked how he was doing things when he was with the Rays.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, no, those are honestly great choices, and I won't lie, Red Sox fans will love to hear about Pedroia and Price. And
Yeah.
yeah, and thank you again for being able to take part in this interview today.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you
Yeah,
having me on.
and good luck continuing this off season and into the 2026 season for you.
Thank you. Thank you.